Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mountain West Insider Podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Doster, and I have a fun guest for you today. I was able to catch up with Utah State head coach Danny Sprinkle, who is sitting here at 8-1 through the first month of the college basketball season, despite the fact that he put together a team that did not return a single point, a single rebound, or a single assist from last year's roster. We talked about Gray Osobor and the impact he's had. We talked about their point guard situation in Darius Brown, and we talked about one of the most surprising freshmen in the conference. You got to stay tuned to find out who that was and whether or not Coach Sprinkle is surprised to see the impact that he's had this season. Just not a lot happened in the Mountain West over the course of the last week since we last talked to you guys. Colorado State is still undefeated. They beat Washington at home. They avoided an upset at home against Denver. New Mexico is sitting here at 8-1. Utah State, like I mentioned, is 8-1. Nevada, they're undefeated, which means that the Mountain West is one of just two conferences in all of college basketball that still has two teams without a loss so far this season. San Diego State did pick up their second loss of the year, but they went on the road to a very good Grand Canyon team, who, by the way, has a couple of guys that are probably going to end up playing in the NBA. If you haven't seen Tyon Grant Foster play yet, the kid is an absolute stud. He started out at Kansas. He went to DePaul, had a couple of health issues, and is now having a all conference and a borderline All-American kind of a season. He's one of the best stories in college basketball this year. That is a raucous environment. If I am San Diego State and I'm sitting here at 7-2, and the only losses that I have to my name are a 6-point loss at Grand Canyon and a 9-point loss at BYU, I'm not all that concerned. They have some things that they got to figure out, but that is still a very, very good basketball team. And I am not worried about them at all. We're still waiting on New Mexico to get entirely healthy. But beyond that, the Mountain West is just, it's been really, really impressive to see what this conference has been so far this year. I know Boise State's still trying to figure some things out a little bit, but they got guys. Isaiah Stevens is having an all-American kind of season. I would say between him, Tyler Kolek, and Tristan Newton, of course, Tyler Kolek from Marquette, Tristan Newton from UConn, you're probably talking about the three best point guards in college basketball this year. One of those guys is going to be a first-team All-American. And if Colorado State continues winning at the clip that they've been winning at, and Isaiah continues playing at the clip that he's been playing at, he has a very good chance to be a first-team All-American. Jaden LeDee, of course, has been awesome this year. You heard from him 2 weeks ago here on the Mountain West Insider podcast. Keenan Blackshear has been unbelievable. You heard from him 3 weeks ago here on the Mountain West Insider podcast. And, of course, New Mexico still waiting to get back entirely healthy, but that is another team that is going to be really good once they get all things figured out. At this point, there are 6 teams in the KenPom top 100 from the Mountain West, and I would not be shocked to see all 6 of them be in the mix when it comes to potentially getting an at-large bid for the NCAA tournament this year. I don't know if all 6 are going to get it. I would say it's probably more likely that 4 or 5 end up getting in, but there are enough quality teams at the top of the conference that there's going to be a bunch of teams making noise. So it's been fun to follow so far this year. It's been fun to watch this year. And like I said, there are some really good teams in this league that I think are going to surprise people nationally that aren't paying enough attention. But that's enough for now. You don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from Danny Sprinkle. He breaks down this Utah State team, their surprising 8-1 start, and the guys that have been the most impressive to him. We're going to hear from that right now. And now let me welcome on to the Mountain West Insider Podcast here on the Field of 68, Danny Sprinkle, the head coach at Utah State, who is off to an 8-1 start after taking over a program that did not return a single point from last season's roster. Danny, how you doing, man? Thanks for being here.
No, I appreciate you having me. Doing great. Obviously things are going well with, such a new team. I want to credit my staff. Like when we got the job in mid-April, as you mentioned, we had no points, no rebounds, no assists returning, and, a couple red shirts. And so, for our guys to, for my staff to put together the roster they did is, it was impressive. Now, we still got a long way to go, but, we didn't want to sacrifice on character. And we have a great group of kids right now that are, working hard and getting better every week.
When you first started building that roster, how long did it take for you to actually have like a good restful night's sleep?
Oh, I still haven't had one. We didn't finish recruiting until mid-June. The last player that we signed, Ian Martinez, I think it was like the second week of June. But we had official visits for about 45, 50 straight days where it was like multiple kids on campus. And it was just, we still had homes up in Bozeman, Montana. And, there was just so many emotions, going through it. I mean, it's been the hardest, 6, 7 months of my life, but it's finally starting to slow down. And, once basketball started, it's been great.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the portal, right? Like it's going to always be difficult. You never know if you're going to get that stud freshman coming back if there's not a bigger deal coming, but it's also something where you can kind of flip it pretty quick, which, you guys are off to an 8-1 start this year. If I would have told you when you first looked at that roster and you realized I got 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists coming back, that you would have started this season 8-1, would you have believed me at that point?
Oh, I'd have told you you're crazy. I would have told you you're crazy. Like, even in October, because we had so many new pieces, like we still do, we're still figuring each other out. And like, we still have some good players that haven't played the minutes that they probably want, and probably to a certain extent, like deserve, but it's hard to play so many guys. And, luckily they've been gelling and taking care of each other and making each other better in practice. But like, there's going to be other guys stepping up that, maybe haven't had the minutes that they've wanted right now.
How long did it take you to feel like you had like a grasp on what this team is, what the rotation should be, who's going to be in what position, who's going to play what role? Because I think that's the hardest part of turning over a roster is just it's the role allocation, it's the role buying, it's understanding like, okay, this guy can do this job. When you got like fast courses trying to learn each other, and it's not just you learning them, it's them learning you.
Yeah, and they're learning a whole new offensive and defensive system and set plays. And like I said, when you're bringing in just a mosh pit of people and trying to bring them together, like we're still trying to figure it out, honestly. Still trying to figure out rotations, different lineups we can play, and hopefully we have it figured out before Mountain West play here in about a month. But different guys are stepping up, and we have so many guys that can play and do different things. Which gives us, some flexibility to play different lineups, whether we're playing big or we play in our 4 guards or 5 guards. And, but we're still, it's going to be a work in progress. And, even the more time with some of our freshmen that are playing, like they're typical freshmen too, so like they're going to be riding the wave all year, of the ups and downs. But, it's going to be a team that, hopefully, I bet we don't really know our true ceiling until kind of February.
What's been the most surprising part of this 8-1 start for you?
Yeah, I think we're a lot better in games of playing fast than we are in practice. Like we were kind of on them to play faster in practice in September and October, and it's like when games started, it was like we started playing fast. Like guys getting it. We have multiple guys that can get the rebound and push the ball, which allows us to play faster than normally just outletting it to a point guard and playing. And I think that's probably been the biggest surprise. And then also, like defensively at times, like we fly around pretty good, and we've picked up each other's tendencies, and we know when to switch, when not to switch. Which with a team like this, like I thought it would take a little bit longer for them to figure out, but as long as your effort's there and you're flying around, it covers up a lot of deficiencies.
It helps too. I'm assuming that when you are taking over a new program and you have all these new faces and all these new transfers coming in, that your best player and your starting point guard are both guys that are kind of that know you and know what you're asking of the team. That probably know the terminology that you're using. They're going to be able to help some guys out. So Great Osobor, Darius Brown. What is how valuable has it been getting them to follow you from Montana State?
Yeah, it was huge. And, and it's crazy because I told the team to stay together, when I left Montana State, because they would have won the Big Sky again. You could have coached them. Like that's how talented we were. And we had some guys coming in, some transfers coming in, that it would have been our best team. But when they hit the portal, I didn't want anybody else to coach them. We lost one kid, Raekwon Battle, to West Virginia and I thought that was the best situation for Raekwon, with Coach Huggins and kind of some things that they had for him that, I thought with Raekwon and what he's been through, I thought that was a really good fit for him. And it's kind of sad he hasn't got his waiver yet. But, going back to Darius and Great, like it's huge because they know our drills in practice. So they were kind of de facto coaches on the floor throughout the summer and helping guys in the locker room understand what we're looking from an offensive standpoint and a defensive standpoint. And they're both really good players. They've played really well the first 9 games of the year, and they're attracting a lot of attention, whether it's double teams and other guys are getting shots off those two.
Well, I would hope that Great Osobor is getting a lot of attention from opposing coaches because he's averaging 20 points and 9 boards. I'm imagining that he's going to be the first guy on a lot of scouting reports. Last year, he was a 10-5 guy. This year, he's kind of doubled that production. What's changed with him? How has he gotten better?
Well, he was playing behind a league MVP, Jabril Bello, who's another kid from England, who's playing his first year professionally. And that really made Great better every day because Great couldn't take a day off in practice. And it was a physical, it was like 2 battering rams going at it every day. But Great has a different skill level than even Jabril. Like Great, he's kind of a 5-man trapped, and he wants to be a point guard. Let's not get that confused. Like he thinks
who doesn't, man? Who doesn't want to be a point guard?
Yeah. But like there's times where he makes some amazing plays, but then there's some times where he gets really sloppy, and that's why he's averaging almost 5 turnovers a game, which once he cleans that up, the sky's the limit for him.
Darius Brown averaging 10 points, almost 8 assists this season. You mentioned how he kind of helped things in the offseason. What's the value of having a point guard that, 1, can do all the things that he can do, and that 2, knows your program, is a veteran, all that? It's got to be a luxury to be able to have a guy that can do what he does.
Well, it is. And, you can ask any Division I coach in the country, like the value of having a point guard that actually enjoys passing the basketball. Like that's what he wants to do. Like he loves getting his teammates shots. He's done a really good job scoring the ball too at times, but his first instinct and what he wants to do is he wants to find guys. Like he loves that. And he's kind of a throwback in that way, which you want that from a point guard because now everybody's feeling better because everybody wants to score. And, and he's done a really good job, especially with our younger guards. Mason Fazlev, who's had a tremendous, start to his freshman year. And, but Darius makes the game really easy for a lot of players.
Yeah, you mentioned Mason. He's a guy I wanted to ask you about because when we wrote the almanac earlier this year, he got a spot on the roster and there wasn't another mention in the write-up. And now he's sitting here as a freshman averaging, I think it's 12.7 points, almost 5 boards, over 3 assists a game, shooting 38% from 3. Was this, are you surprised by this, or was this just something where you're not going to let people know how good this kid's going to end up being? You're not trying to leak any information out there?
Yeah, no, like he shows his talent like every day in spurts. Now, obviously, do you expect a freshman to come in and do that?
No.
No. But he's such a competitive kid. But what he is he's got a different gear. Like he's really, really fast. He was a tremendous football player and a high-level recruit in high school. And so, when he gets it off the board or steals, like he's up the floor in literally like a second and a half. And he's strong and he's aggressive when he's driving it. And he's physical. And so like he can put you on your heels, and when he's making shots, like I said, he's a really good shooter. And when he's making shots, he's really hard to guard because when he starts going downhill, his speed is hard to catch up with.
When did you realize that he had a chance to be, a double digit scoring guy?
This summer, he showed flashes. Because we do have some solid athletes on our team, and there was days where like it was clear he was the fastest guy on the team, and especially with the basketball, and he's competitive, like he's aggressive, which I like, and I think the sky's the limit for him, not only on the offensive side but the defensive side, and he's a shot maker. He's a tough kid. He loves playing in the Spectrum, which where we play, and one of the top environments in the country, and they love him being a hometown kid, and his energy's on a different level when he plays in the Spectrum.
Yeah, I've actually been to a game out in the Spectrum. It was in 2012. This was back in the Wild Bill days. Remember Wild Bill?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it was it was. I sat in the student section. We did the "I believe that we can win" chant.
Oh yeah.
Bill took his shirt off. It was quite the afternoon in that building. Talk a
Yeah,
little bit
no,
about what that home court is.
it's huge. Like even on some games where we didn't have the best energy, whether it was Southern Utah, UC Irvine, like they carried us through. Like literally, the crowd won the game for us. And when you have 8,000 people showing up, whether it's a non-Division One, the couple D1s, and now once we start conference, I mean, it's going to be over 10,000 every night. And just the way the spectrum's built, still got that old school feel. And like it's been hard for me to coach because I can't communicate with our players. Like it gets so loud, they can't hear me, they can't hear each other. And it's something that this team will get better throughout the year. But when we're calling out ball screen coverages or plays, there's no way I can yell and get everybody's attention, which is an awesome problem to have.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have. I don't think people realize the people, Mountain West fans know this, but I don't think people nationally realize how many unbelievable environments there are in that conference. When you guys are rolling, when you guys are good, the spectrum is awesome. When New Mexico is good, the pit is unbelievable. When San Diego State is good, which is pretty much every year, Viejas is just, it's a buzzsaw to go into. There are. And I'm missing some too. Colorado State is awesome. Yeah, Boise State's awesome. Like there are some unbelievable environments in that conference. It's just a great basketball league.
It is. And it's just gotten better, especially even the last 10 years, 12 years. Like, everywhere you go, like it's a grind. And pretty much every team, when you look at like they have pros on their team. And it's a high major conference. And I knew that before I even took the job. And that's why I took the job. But when you look at some of the NBA players and the teams, it's a multi-bid league every year, whether or not 3, 4, 5 teams, getting in there, like it's a special league.
Yeah, we were talking about it before we hit record on this, but you look at a guy like Isaiah Stevens, Tyler Kolek has been awesome this year. Tristan Newton at UConn's been awesome this year. I don't know if there's a point guard in the sport better than what Isaiah Stevens has been. Jaden Ledee has been putting up numbers that are on par with what Blake Griffin did his National Player of the Year season in 2009. Like we haven't even seen Boise State get rolling yet. We haven't seen New Mexico get healthy yet. It's just, are you ready for what you're walking into when you head into conference play here?
Well, yeah, well, I know what's coming. I don't know if our team knows what's coming yet. And we've been trying to like prep them for that in practice. And even after some of our wins, we're not going to be able to get away with this in the Mountain West. Like, I hope you guys understand that. And, and sometimes you got to learn through going through the fire, but, hopefully our guys can take some of it to heart and get better in the next month. Because like I said, not only are the environments great, but how good and how physical and how tough some of these teams are from a defensive standpoint. It's going to be a heck of a challenge.
How do you balance that as a coach? Like, on the one hand, you want your guys to kind of be feeling themselves. You need confidence, right? Life is confidence. You're not going to play well if you're not confident in what you're doing. At the same time, you guys haven't played a bad schedule by any stretch of the imagination, but you haven't played a top 75 opponent yet. You've played a bunch of really good programs. You played a couple road games, which not everybody does at this point, but you haven't played what would be a Mountain West schedule. So how do you balance trying to make sure you guys stay confident with also being like, look, that playing, like, it's not, these are not non-D1 teams that we're going to be playing when we get to league play. You're going on the road to the pit. You're walking into a cauldron.
Exactly. And it is, that's coaching nowadays. Like it's hard. It's hard because especially with like somewhat of a young team and a new team, like I want them to feel good about what they've done. Like being 8-1, that's a heck of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I wasn't expecting it. I was hoping for it, and we coached that way, but they went out and did it. And but they always know I'm going to tell them the truth. And whether they like it and whether it hurts for 24 hours or whatnot, like it's my job to tell them the truth. And we tell them what's coming. When we open up at Air Force, here's what's coming. When you go to the pit, when you go to Thomas and Mack or San Diego State, like it's different. You can't have sloppy turnovers if you're expecting to win a road game. You can't have defensive breakdowns. And that's the stuff that we need to clean up. And I think our guys know it. But sometimes you have to go through the experience. It's kind of like, children, like they hear you, but till they actually touch that stove and it's hot. Like that's when it affects them.
Yeah, what's that saying? Listen to me now, believe me later on.
Exactly. Exactly.
How long you said that you probably won't really know how good you guys are until February. What has to happen for you to kind of know what exactly you have? Because I got to imagine you're feeling pretty good about where you are right now, but there's also, again, you haven't gotten punched in the face yet. You don't really know what you are until you get punched in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. I think still just, finding different lineups and just the more we play, the more we see some of the players that we've only coached them for 9 games,
Mhm.
and so kind of seeing how they handle adversity, like who's good at the end of the game, who's not scared of the moment, who's going to step up and knock down free throws, who's going to handle the ball and press on, be strong with it, not turn it over. All those little things that go into winning close games. The more experiences we go through, the more we learn about our team. But I think too, it's, we're a way better shooting team than we've shown, and we're getting wide open shots. Like we can't get better looks for some of our guys. Like we have to start shooting the ball better, and shooting the ball more confident and knocking shots down if we want to continue winning.
All right, I'm going to give you a hypothetical. It is the last week of February. Utah State is right there, tied for first, a game out of first, whatever it is. They're in the mix for a Mountain West regular season title. What's the biggest thing that needs to happen between now and then for you to be in that situation, for that hypothetical to become a reality?
I think, offensively, our ball movement and body movement needs to get better. We stand around a little bit sometimes. We gotta have a little bit more pace to us. But defensively, we got to, like everybody, we got to be able to guard the basketball better, from a one-on-one standpoint. We can't let teams beat us off the dribble and then put us into rotations. Teams are too good, especially once you get into Mountain West play, where if you get put into rotations and they're getting open shots, that's a recipe for disaster. So we have to we got to continue to get better of kind of filling in gaps and being better on the ball defensively.
All right, last thing I got for you. What's the one thing about the Utah State job, the Utah State program, the roster that you built, the one thing that has really opened your eyes and made you say, okay, I didn't expect this to be this way?
Probably, more, other than just some of the recruiting stuff that we've had to deal with, you're recruiting at a different level. And as you know, I mean, it's transactional at this level. And, we don't have a ton, and that it's going to be an issue, if we don't correct that, to be honest with you. But it's, other than recruiting, I would say, like, once you experience the spectrum, it's different. You can come in as a visitor and but when you walk down that tunnel every night and you got 7,500 for a non-Division I game and it's rocking, like that's special. And even though I knew how great it was, but to actually feel it in person, like it's awesome.
It's different when you're going into a building like that and everybody's rooting for you instead of you're coming in
Exactly.
and you got all the fan base telling you suck and telling your guys are terrible and holding up signs.
Yeah,
It's different when they got your back.
it is. And we got our student section. I mean, 4,000, 4,500 students rush down the stands at 6 p.m. for a 7 o'clock game. They sprint down and they are locked in until the game's over. And they are harassing the opposing team and the bench. And that's what college basketball is. That's what college athletics should be.
I don't think people realize how good Utah is as a basketball state.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're allowed to say nice things about the University of Utah on here, but they have a lot of passionate fans. I don't know if you're allowed to say nice things about BYU on here. They got passionate fans. Weber State, passionate fans. Utah Valley, passionate fans.
No, it's probably the most underrated basketball state in the country.
I agree.
Does it have top 50 guys every year? No, but like there's really good players that come out of here that are great college players, and then guys that even go on to the NBA. And even the Jazz, like it's a basketball state. It's not a football state. Even though football is big here, and our team, we're going to a bowl game, Utah, but basketball is different. Like it's the primary sport in the state of Utah. And it's really well coached at the high school level, AAU level. All the churches have basketball hoops in them. You drive down the street, there's courts, kids shooting outside, and it's kind of like that old school Indiana feel.
Yeah, that's what I asked somebody about that. I think it was Dave Rose, the old BYU coach. I was like,
Yeah.
why are there just so many good players coming out of the state of Utah? And he said every single church has got a basketball court in the basement. And when it's cold outside, the only thing you have to do in the winter
Yeah.
is to go down there and shoot.
No doubt. And the fans love it. Like everybody gets great support, you know. Like I said, I think there's 7 Division I schools maybe in Utah, and everybody gets great support because it's important to the people here.
Well, listen, Danny, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. Congratulations on the great start to the year, but you know, it's early in the season. You guys haven't done anything yet. Best of luck as you get ready for the Mountain West.
You got it. I appreciate you having me.